Hi everyone, welcome to the new episode of Yotewo podcast. And today we have our new dear guest. We have Svyatoslav from Meta. So thank you so much for coming, Svyatoslav. I think let's start with a bit of intro on yourself. You can tell about yourself, and then we'll get to the questions.
Sure. My name is Svyatoslav. I'm currently working at Meta and also previously worked at Wargaming. So have like about 13 years of expertise and experience in software development, both in software engineering roles and software engineering management and people management, and leading the teams from like smaller size to the bigger teams up to like 100 people.
Amazing, that's cool. And how long ago did you move to the UK? It was a couple of years now.
Yeah, it's 2 years and a half.
Cool, that's amazing. How do you like it so far?
So far, so good.
Sounds good. Perfect. I think let's start with how you entered the industry, because 13 years is a lot. It's pretty cool. Pretty cool experience. Can you share a bit more how you started the journey, how you entered sort of to the first job, and then how you kind of progressed over
Sure.
time?
I think it's mostly started from my graduation from the university.
Okay.
So it was Belarusian State University in Minsk, the Faculty of Applied Mathematics and Informatics. They gave a pretty solid background in in math and the computer science, like from the very low level parts to the high level. For instance, we started. Speaking of programming, we started with like C, the pure C language, a little bit of assembler basics. Then C++, then higher level languages like C# and Java, and more like modern frameworks for development. My personal interest felt into C++ mostly, so this is where I decided to start looking for careers in this area. And back then, I started with EPAM. It was the big outsourcing company, and they had a very strong program of kind of involving the talents from the universities as interns. So I started with their program and applied for it and successfully got the job. And then after some time, I switched my job to Wargaming. There was an opportunity to go to junior render developer position, and it was also mostly the C++, but also with like rendering and the runtime performance aspects.
Cool.
And this is how it all started.
Amazing. And then how was your decision to move to Meta? Sort of how did you come to this?
Yeah. So I worked at Wargaming for over than 10 years, and at some point I was started thinking of, well, maybe I should try another challenge and try kind of going to big tech.
That's cool.
And there was a good coincidence. So the recruiter from Meta contacted me on LinkedIn, and I just said, okay, why not? Let's try. Let's prepare for the interviews, and it worked.
That's really cool. So Meta reached out to you.
Yes.
That's really cool. It's interesting because we had a guy a few episodes back, Ilya, and he mentioned as well that he also worked in Meta previously before BP, and he also mentioned that Meta was the one who had hunted him. So it's pretty cool. So the Meta is actually actively, doing this reach out to people and stuff. Did they just reach out on LinkedIn or email, or how was it?
I think it was LinkedIn.
Cool. That's important. So it's pretty important to keep the profile and
and they were actually looking for the people from game development experience because of the similar kind of type of project they were hiring for.
That's really cool. Interesting. Perfect. I think great. Then let's get to Meta a little bit. Can you share how was the process of getting there in terms of the they're famous for having a bunch of interviews, long cycles.
Yep.
Tell a bit more. How did the process go?
So there was a screening interview, there was like a coding interview when you have to solve like algorithmic tasks and demonstrate your coding skills. System design, also like software engineering, but more about designing the systems.
Yeah.
And a few interviews related to soft skills, like people management, partnership, and the behavioral.
Interesting.
Each one has like separate agenda and separate kind of topics.
Yeah.
But they were kind of on the calendar they were quite close to each other,
Okay.
so it was not like super long.
Not a few months, okay.
It was a reasonable amount of time.
Nice, amazing. That's great. And how was the onboarding then when they actually got the offer? It was like, how does it, in general, because my interest is that, like, is it same bureaucratic as in like big companies, or is tech companies more of a sort of relaxed mode? Because everyone tells they still have very strict sort of separation between departments and things like that. Like, how's it from your experience?
From my experience, the onboarding was it was good. It was more challenging because it was a big shift from one kind of culture to
Yeah.
another.
Yeah.
So for me personally, it was more challenging because of that.
Okay.
On the other hand, they have a lot of like onboarding materials and like bootcamp guides and lots of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, lots of stuff that really helps you to get onboarded. Also, lots of support from peers and from the team itself.
Amazing.
So yeah, it felt good. Just you have to learn a lot of information. You have to understand how it works, and it works very different than you used to. So this probably is the most challenging part.
Cool. That's amazing. The one question I have about Meta is, they're known for very high, engineering standards in terms of like how their products are built and stuff. What are some of the principles you've learned over time from, how they work in general? Maybe any good sort of things to follow?
First thing that comes to mind is it is a very like impact oriented culture. So it's all about focusing on the right goals and asking like if you or your team is building some feature or some functionality, it's always about asking like, okay, what specific problem we're solving, what is the actual goal, and then based on this goal you're kind of creating the exact implementation plan and you keep it on track and always check if it's still on the right course for like what we will achieve when it's done.
Yeah.
This is the one thing. The other thing is, let's say, I don't know, engineering, let's say excellence or quality when we're talking about like code review culture, when it's absolutely essential that every kind of PR is reviewed by your peers, and it actually helps to reduce the human factor. Even there is a good automation to ensure that, well, you don't have the blind spots or you haven't overthought something important. On the other hand, like my personal kind of experience is it's always good to have the solutions being like documented and properly described before you kind of go all in with the implementation. So you have again, it's like it's similar idea as the code review, but you have at least a small document describing like, okay, this is what we are going to build. This is the high level system design that will be there, and you get like the feedback from your peers again for the same reasons, for the higher quality of the decisions, and well, to see if you've kind of maybe there are other dependencies or other nuances that you need to know. Also, like one more thing is avoid, it's kind of the culture forces you to avoid the situations of when you are developing something in isolation for too long.
Okay.
So instead, it's a very good practice, and I really kind of learned it for myself, that, well, decomposing your work into smaller pieces and ship it piece by piece iteratively is much more productive than staying in like an isolated environment and trying to ship the huge thing at once later on.
Yeah.
This one, I think these are my
main ones.
Top of mind. Yeah, maybe during this conversation we remember something else.
Cool, that's amazing. I think it's really cool, especially I really like the one about impact, like actually telling about business goals and what we need to achieve, and the last one about being iterative, because this is something, it's really cool, because the big companies, they're usually less iterative. I would assume they are more like bureaucratic, they have everything in place, but then iteration is something not even a lot of startups follow, and then when it comes to like big companies, it's even more difficult, I guess, but so it's really cool that they do it.
Yeah, there is also strong kind of push for like for the automation, for the test coverage, for the kind of infrastructure solutions that make it possible. So it's all about like moving fast, going with impact, and
that's amazing, interesting. And the question on innovation at Meta. So because Meta, it's interesting. Like it's also a startup. Like at some point, it was a startup at some point, like Facebook. And my question is like, when it comes to innovation and like ideas and proposing something new, is it more of a sort of top-down hierarchy of decision making, or is it more flat and sort of horizontal approach? Like, how's it?
Um, I would say again, the company is huge. I wouldn't talk on its behalf.
Yeah,
It's more of my personal
course,
observations
yeah.
and opinions.
Experience, yeah.
It's usually a mixture of like top-down and bottom-up approaches. So
Okay.
there is a top-down, like either the company or the organization within the company have the high-level objectives, like
Okay.
the goal, the request, or the challenge, or something that's kind of engineering or the
Yeah.
bigger team needs to solve. And there is a room for like the bottom-up ways to actually answer the question of how are we going to achieve
Okay.
this.
Interesting.
And the top-down, and it's this bottom-up kind of approach has some guardrails, which
Yeah.
are obviously guided by these specific
Yeah.
goals, by the time frame for doing that, even if it's not the kind of some startup inside of the
Yeah.
company, but it can also be the major improvements for, I don't know, optimizing the iteration time for the developers, for example, or something else in this area.
Yeah.
Usually it's about having it again iterative, having it well described in terms of what is this supposed to do, what is supposed to achieve, and try to make these decisions data driven as much as possible. So as soon as you have an idea, you might a good way how to test it, maybe do some A/B testing or some user kind of research. Also to time box these initiatives.
Okay.
So it's within the controllable time frame, and it has some clear success and exit criteria. Like, okay, for instance, after some period of time, we revisit and see, okay, was it a kind of is it on a success track or not, basically?
I see.
And yeah.
Interesting. So it's pretty much there is like a sort of like top bottom like guidance and sort of frameworks to follow, but then you still can be a little innovative and like propose ideas and stuff.
Yes.
That's pretty cool. That's really cool to have. Cool. The next question I have is on the sort of your career as well. Like, you're currently engineering manager. That's different from engineer. So the first part of this question is how come you progressed from software engineer to engineer manager? And what's your experience in general? Like, why this specific niche? Because managing people is, I think, more difficult than being an engineer. So yeah, tell a bit more about about that.
My transition from like the hands-on engineer to the engineering manager happened back in my years at Wargaming.
Okay, I see.
So my job offer to Meta was already to a software engineering manager role.
Okay.
So back then it was about, there was an opportunity to actually try the team lead role. Back then it was like, I think it was half of the game engine team to support. And basically I decided, well, I should take this challenge and see. Well, it felt like it's the right track for me. I felt like, yes, it's an area where I can, I don't know, amplify the impact, amplify the amount of things we can do if we have, if you have not only yourself, but you can scale with the help of others, and also, again, have their enable them to propose and share their ideas and kind of build some bigger strategy with their help and with their implementation.
Cool. So would you say you prefer that over just being an engineer? Yeah?
That's my choice for several years now.
Cool, that's interesting. I think that's I'll have a question about that first later on. But on this side, can you tell me sort of whether it's like, I don't know, hire managers watching or software engineering managers or, I don't know, startup founders, what would be your advice to them, like generally from your experience, on how to effectively manage teams, like specifically technical teams? Like, what's your general would be advice or some mentorship on that?
Yeah, my personal. I think there are very different styles of management, and there are no like
Only right one.
only right one or silver bullet description. I would just share my again my personal preferences and my personal priorities. I would say first one would be growing people, like consistently growing them. Second one would be includes your engineers into the decision making and creating the strategy for the team.
Okay.
And I would also say go beyond the team limits. Partner with your peers, partner with other teams if you have like the bigger company or the organization. And this is the best way to achieve like the bigger impact. On the first one, I would say it's for me. I personally find it very important to like challenge people, to give them tasks that are like exceed the previous expectation bar, and like provide the guidance, provide the mentorship either by yourself or by more senior engineers within your engineering pool. Provide safety nets. Obviously, don't let them, don't challenge them uncontrollably. They need support and they need to see that how do they progress. So career development plans, the feedback, both like positive and constructive, all this stuff is very important. In terms of the roadmap, in terms of involving people into creation of the strategy, it's always if the roadmap and the strategy is kind of co-created by yourself and your team members, they're usually more involved into actually executing it because it's part of their own vision. As I mentioned, it's also very important that you don't limit yourself and your team by the boundaries of the organizational structure. It's always important to be dynamic to the specific challenge you're solving. If you're introducing something major, it might require like buy-in from other teams and hands-on support from them. So kind of forgetting about the team boundaries in a reasonable kind of state can be a very helpful thing to unlimit the potential.
That's really cool. So for me it sounds like the key to this is sort of giving them a bit of like creative freedom, but within the structure. So would you say something like that?
Yep. That's a good summary.
Perfect. I would say for the startup founders as well, same applies. Like you need to, when you're hiring just even first engineers, first team, still have them on the same level as you in terms of decision making, creativeness. All of that's definitely a good one. Perfect. The next one that relates to what I was about to ask previously. What skill do you think differentiates just good engineer from world-class engineer? Like what would you say is the thing that helps them to sort of go beyond their capacity?
I would say few items that comes to my mind. First one would be the decision-making skills and the ability to prioritize the right things and prioritize kind of the exact tasks that actually needs to be solved, and the ability to describe their own impact in a language that is understandable, kind of on the business level. And so if people make an engineer who makes very clear connection between like the engineering challenge itself and the product challenge and solve it as a single problem, it makes them very strong. The other thing would be, I would say, again, continuous learning and growth and ability to do that. So these people don't get limited to like the one domain or part of tech stack that they are proficient at. It's always essential to go beyond the previously learned limits and like don't rely on someone from different team with a different skill set for your success, but also be able to kind of go beyond these boundaries. Communication skills are also super important. So when communication and partnership in terms of, if there is a big engineering or product challenge and there is a proposed solution by this engineer, It's very rare situation when they can solve it alone. They always need a team for it. They need a strong partnership, and they need to be aligned on what they're trying to build and how exactly they're going to solve these tasks. So strong communication skills, like documenting this. If you're talking about the big organizations or big companies, it's also super important that these decisions are well described and documented and can be understood by others efficiently.
Cool, that's amazing. And I think also that's just what, like, just my opinion. I think also this mindset with ambition to move from just manual hands-on engineering to actually managing engineering. I think that's also one of the things that sort of brings people up to the next level. So that's a really cool thing to do.
Well, yeah, I think it's always good when people don't only kind of act hands-on in one narrow area, but also enable each other and help each other grow and get better.
Exactly, 100% agreed. Tell me a little bit about some war stories. So you've been in this industry for a while. Can you share some, without again any representations or details, but any cases when things didn't go as expected in your teams, and how did you handle it?
Again, I'll start from afar.
Of course.
I would say that constructive conflicts are a good thing. It's if it happens in respectful environment with opinions being expressed and heard, and with with negotiations and trying to find a compromise. This is the best way to actually build a teamwork. And I would be rather suspicious that maybe something is not happening if everything is quiet and there is no kind of situations like that. No frictions or no debates or no kind of spicy topics. So this is totally great when it happens. It just needs to be
within the limits.
Within the limits, well controlled, respectful, and constructive. So this is one thing. The other thing is going more into specific examples. On my experience, I think it's most challenging to incorporate major changes to the existing kind of projects and ecosystems. For instance, there might be some, again, back to our topics of bottom-up projects. There can be a good engineering proposal of how to improve the efficiency of, the engineers and their partners to build the product or ship new features into product. And there might be already well-established kind of technology, framework, development pipeline that's, probably needs to be modernized at some point. Implementing this while the partnering teams already have the responsibilities for the roadmap, when they're already under the time pressure and they already have some well-established practices to keep the product alive and support it without incidents. It might be not that trivial. Even if you or your team have a cool idea, it might be pretty challenging to convince them that now we have to do some additional work and try to take extra risks. I would say, in my experience, this is the most kind of challenging. I wouldn't say the war type of stories, but it's something that requires more, more granular kind of and more accurate decisions here. I would say, how do we usually handle this? It's about, first of all, clearly describing and assessing the positive impact of the changes. So what it is about, how it will help not only your team, but but the business at all, and the teams that will also have to implement or support it. Think about, again, the small iterative changes or experiments that can be easily turned on or off. So it's not like the major rework of the live kind of ecosystem, but something more safe and iterative, when you can try, collect the feedback and say, now we can roll it back, we go and improve it and try once again in the future. So it's about building trust. It's about showing that, what would be the positive impact, and providing the safety net in case, for the worst case scenarios.
Cool. That's amazing. Perfect. Then the next question I have, you've been both in gaming and big tech. Can you share, we were about to touch on this topic previously, but share what are the differences in cultures? You mentioned that you've seen it right away when you joined Meta. So can you share a bit more about sort of what differences have you seen right away?
The differences are, let's start with I don't know, let's say the release process and the iterations and how they are happening.
Yeah.
Game development is more about it's a big teamwork, not only from the engineering discipline but from the creative parts. It's from games themselves are not necessarily about technology. They're also about the content to be created on top of this technology and making this content engaging. And it's very hard to measure this thing in advance.
Yeah.
So these are like the iterations when there is like art reviews and design reviews and like trial and error things when you get the feedback from users and this type of thing. It's not something that is well measured, and it's something that it might require a longer period of time before the idea and the actual like massive release or something, especially if it's a new game or a major upgrade for the existing one.
Yeah.
In the big tech, it seems to be more of like faster iterations of a smaller kind of upgrades, and it also it tends to be more relying on metrics and more on the engineering systems, and kind of big tech thinks less in terms of like art vision and and these components. So it seems to be more engineering driven, more engineering created. And again, the way that features are shipped, the cadence of releases, it's all different, and it all needs to kind of to readjust the mindset.
That's really cool. And then in terms of the actual like people's culture, difference as well, or like how was it?
It is different. I think it's also about it's probably not about the company. It's more about switching the location from one region to another, and from one kind of speaking from one language to a different language. And it's like, okay, I now need to learn not only like technical aspects and the cultural things in the company, but also how to physically communicate to people. It's all good. People are very supportive, and Meta is very multicultural environment, which is actually expands the way you can cooperate with people and learn new experiences, which was great.
That's cool. That's perfect. That's amazing. Great. The next question I have is, you've been in the industry for a while, right? How have you seen the industry changing over the last 13 years? And especially now we're at the point, where AI and everyone is anticipating to like for this industry to change a lot. How do you see sort of the industry evolving over the next like years?
Hard to predict. Short answer. Long answer is what I've seen over the past few years is the tendency to optimize, to increase the efficiency, to be more careful with the exact impact that is expected, to get probably more safe bets, and be probably less aggressive with the growth in hiring. So now the market seems to be more, and I observe it in kind of in external reports, what's happening in the game development industry, what's happening in big tech. Seems to be a similar trend where the market has switched from like candidates driven to employers driven.
100%.
And this is my first the biggest observation, that now there is much more probably competition for the candidates. There are less roles available. And it seems to be that there is still high demand on AI and ML related roles 100%. And skills. So this is it's definitely changing. And I'm really struggling how to say what should we expect in the next years. Obviously, AI related skills and the actual tools they're growing. They're growing. They are changing the way the people kind of do their daily work to some extent. So obviously this will be a long-term thing. I don't think it's a one-time kind of situation. I hope that the market will stabilize and they'll be much more kind of predictable for the candidates and for everyone who wants to switch the jobs and try for more opportunities. But so far, I think it's getting better. I think the wave of bad news is slightly getting into a better space.
I agree.
So yeah, that's my.
Yeah, I agree. I think, over the next sort of 3, 5 years, a lot of upskilling will happen in terms of AI skills and co-shipping with AI tools and generally like using AI in your routine tasks. And I think, yeah, the market will definitely get better in the next sort of couple of years for sure. Cool. The other question, I came up with just now, it just popped up in my mind. I've recently, I had a chat with another engineer about it recently. I've read about this concept of, it's called polygamy jobs, essentially. So it's a concept that BBC, I think it was the Times or BBC wrote an article about it. Essentially, it was especially after COVID, was this sort of post-pandemic remote first times. The concept that has really grown in popularity is the concept of getting a few jobs at the same time. And I've seen it myself in a few cases. And my question is, I wanted to ask your opinion on that because it's an interesting topic, and I have very sort of very sharp and probably very sharp and probably unpopular opinion on it among engineers. So I wanted to get yours on that, if that's all right.
Well, I have never experienced it myself, so but good question. I think I don't believe that if you're not a superhero, you'll be able to do multiple jobs in a good quality.
Exactly.
So no, my opinion is you shouldn't do that.
I agree. I think the thing is long term, it is very, very risky for developers because obviously, especially, if developer is sitting somewhere in Eastern Europe and he gets multiple offers, I don't know, from US and UK or whatever. And while, they can still manage for maybe 1 month, 2 months when no one is looking strictly after that. But then at some point, if it shows up, it's just such a high risk to reputation and everything. And I'm always recommending people not doing that. I don't know why everyone is keen to do that. But and it was an interesting article because they've said also that it's very long term, it's very harmful. So I wanted to get your thought on that as well. Cool. The question I have, the next one is, what do you think is the secret of engineers from our region? Because obviously engineers from Eastern Europe, and especially from our country, they are very demanded across the world. What would you say sort of was the combination of factors that, made that happen?
I think it's, on one hand, it's the education. So I think the mathematics and the computer science specialities are fairly strong, very solid.
Yeah.
On the other hand, the kind of people from these regions usually grown with very pragmatic mindsets, and also I think there is a background in culture of Olympiads and the environment where people actually learn the skills in the competitive environment. And I think there is a pretty high expectation bar, even from the high school and the universities.
Yeah.
This is one of the aspects. The other one is, I think there was, and I think there still is, actively the outsourcing has been a very big part of the portfolio of software engineering, and it means that people have an experience again with English-speaking colleagues and working in the remote setup and distributed setup even before it became massive thing. I think these factors matter. Yeah.
Cool, that's interesting. I think it's very. I've never thought of that. The one you mentioned about Olympics. I've realized that actually, there is an interesting mindset that people have with this sort of competitive kind of approach to work. I haven't thought about it. It's actually a pretty cool thing. Perfect. It was we got pretty quickly to the last question for the podcast. So the question is, do you have an ambition to at some point leave Meta and build your own product? Is it something that you have an ambition for?
Short answer is not now.
Okay.
The thing with Meta and I think with my existing experience is, it's been a very interesting learning curve so far, and there's a lot more to learn and and master, both in engineering domains and in people management. So lots of good skills to learn.
Yeah.
Second one is there's still a lot of work to do for within this team, within this role, and much more challenges to solve and much more impact to land. So for the next 2 years, I'm focused on that. And I don't think it's, I don't expect it to change. I have this entrepreneurial feeling that, at some point, maybe it makes sense. so far there's enough opportunities inside the company, inside within my role to kind of satisfy this need.
Yeah.
So yeah, not now.
Amazing. No, that's great. Perfect. Svyatoslav, thanks so much for coming. It was very, very insightful chat. I've learned a lot for myself, and I'm sure our audience will also learn a lot. I'll put all the links to your LinkedIn and everything in the description of the podcast. And yeah, man, thanks so much for coming. It was
Thank you very
great
much
to have
for
you.
inviting me.
Thank you.